Welcome to Make Shit Happen. Our guest today is Eugene Alletto. Eugene, thank you. You came straight from New York for this interview, and I appreciate it so much. Just landed over here, and man, thank you. I want to thank you again for your time.
You're welcome. It was a long journey to get here, but it's something that I promised you over a year and so ago. And watching your podcast and seeing this personality come out, it was such an attraction that I had to get on a plane and brave the COVID just to come and see you. So
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Eugene, people are probably wondering, I've given a little intro of yours in the beginning, but people are still wondering, who is Eugene Alletto? So I know today you are the founder and the CEO of BEDGEAR.
mm-hmm.
And but tell us a little bit. I know you were not always, an entrepreneur. So I mean, growing up, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I've never done anything that I haven't been successful at. Everything I do, I'm crazy successful. That's how I got here. The reality is that we all know the same thing. We fail and we get up. We fail and we get up. And at some point, you get up enough and you wake up and you look around and you realize what a journey you had. I think a lot of times when I look at my life, what's really is interesting to me is that if you don't become introspective soon enough, then you're working towards something and you're forgetting to really enjoy the journey. And you'll hear it from entrepreneur after entrepreneur when that's that pivot, that moment where it just aha, like wait a minute, it's not getting to an end. It's really the beginning of a day, and what great, as you call it, great shit can you actually do, right? So for me, I think my journey started with a lot of issues in my family, where my dad passed away when I was 15. I was the oldest of four. My sister was only 3 with 2 kids in the middle. And if it wasn't for a strong mother, I really don't know what life would be like. So we were taught never to be victims. So the day that my dad passed away, literally right on the street in front of me and my brother and my mom's a nurse. She tried to resuscitate him. It was a massive coronary at 49 years old. I remember going to the hospital and sitting in the little chapel in our local hospital, and the priest and my mom came in with the doctor and told us that my dad had passed. And sitting here now at 50 plus years old, looking back at that experience really set me up for what a journey you see in front of you. So everybody looks at your successes, but they never realize where they come from. And a lot of people just think you get lucky. You just see all these Insta-famous people and everybody just thinks that, wow, it's just everybody's having a great time. The reality is that all that pain and all that suffering, you have 2 choices in life. You can either embrace it and it becomes who you are, or you can embrace it and it become who you are. And the only difference between those 2 statements is really, do you choose to be a victim, or do you choose to empower yourself to become better? So that's really where my beginnings started from. It's not a great business story, but it's truly where I believe I became that hyper-focused person that really could always get up and keep fighting. And that's really where it started.
Wow, that's a great story. So at 15 years old, you don't have a father figure in your life, and your mom is a nurse, and with 4 kids, I'm sure she's working hard, all the time. So what did you do at 15? I mean, you're going to school. I mean, you're the oldest brother. I mean, were y'all well-to-do? How did that? Tell us a little bit more about that.
I grew up in Hempstead, Long Island, which in my world I was Alletto from the ghetto. So my last name being Alletto, they used to call me and make fun of me because we lived in a community where it was apparently considered a ghetto, but not where we lived. Our street was pretty nice, but the surrounding area was pretty crappy. Bikes getting stolen, car tires getting taken off of our cars at night on jacks. I grew up that way. It was just kind of normal.
Yeah.
And we had 2 German Shepherds always in the house, and they were our pets. But I came to recognize after I got older that these were more than just pets, because we were one of the only houses that really didn't get robbed on the street. And I didn't grow up in a weird way in a bad neighborhood, but the surrounding neighborhoods were worse than where we were.
Yeah.
And so that experience, though, really gave me a sense of community. Our neighbors, we all kind of hung out together. I had to convince my dad that I just didn't want to go to the local high school, and begged him to go to Catholic school, which most, 13 and 14-year-olds aren't begging their their dad to go to Catholic school. And why I share that with you is I think if you ask me at 20, if you ask me at 19, if you ask me even at probably 25, the same question that you're asking me, my answers would never be as introspective. Because as you get older, which is hard for people to realize because they're not old yet, is that you start to recognize that what really has defined who you are starts so early. And what defines your business career, your personal, who you are, everything really does stem from those experiences at a young age. So I love to share these things with people because I hope that when people hear this that are maybe in their 18 or 20 or 25, that they turn more into perspective. Because if you can turn on what your experiences are leading you towards, it's amazing how quicker you can get to your fun part of the journey and not suffer through it. Because some people think that they have to suffer through these experiences before they can become successful. So to me, I think the 15-year-old, I never became like the dad. My mom never put me in that position. My mom, I never realized that we didn't have a lot of money. My dad died with $10,000 of a life insurance policy, which was enough to bury him. And my mom just kept her shit together. My grandparents moved in, her parents, she was an only child. And my grandfather, my Sicilian grandfather, would get up every morning at 80 years old, put a tie on and a big old cigar and a fedora on his hat and drive this big giant Cadillac, and was like this amazing character. And he was the proverbial sales guy. And he really then helped, without knowing it, he helped craft my skill. I'm a great sales guy. And if you're a great salesperson, you can be a great marketer. Mm-hmm. If you're a great marketer, you can find products to market. But if you don't know how to sell, it's really, really hard to take a great idea and make it something and scale it. So my grandfather was that really big pinnacle moment in my life when he showed up because he was a salesman by his sheer nature. And I could talk hours about my grandfather. So I think what I would share with you on the question, there's no pity party in my family. There was no worry about money until you had no money. It wasn't something we focused on. It wasn't about getting things. It was always just get up, go to school, make sure that you're a good person, be a gentleman. And that was sort of the upbringing that I had around.
That's
pretty
awesome.
Cool.
So you now you finished school, and where did you go college at?
So I was a shitty student.
Okay.
When I say shitty, like really bad. So the thing that kept me going was sports. I was 258 pounds by my senior year of high school. I was not allowed to play any contact sports when my dad was living. So my dad's passing, I know this is going to sound a bit strange. If my dad was still alive, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. So just another example of what you don't realize where your successes come from. They do come from these moments, these micro moments throughout your life that send you in a different direction. Getting on a football team I was not allowed. When I was younger, I had to play soccer. I sucked at soccer. I was an overweight. When I say overweight, I was 175 pounds by the time I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you heavy, I was heavy like you can't believe. To the point where if you know anything about soccer, you have to be able to run. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the one time, and it's weird how many years ago it was, there was a game called skins. So we didn't have jerseys where we lived. You had to take your shirt off. So one person next. So you have your team. Half of them are without shirts. The other half have shirts on. And I remember getting made fun of being like this big overweight kid. Look, my mother's a good cook. What can it's not my fault.
Sicilian.
We just eat. We eat. So going into high school, I was overweight. I had a bowl haircut. My parents were not exactly, Ralph Lauren and his wife. So we had a bowl haircut, really bad looking clothes, and I had bad skin going into high school. And when I walked in there, I was the biggest kid walking in. And I'll never forget being recruited. Hey, you should sign up for football. I'm not allowed to play football. What do you mean? So the coach literally called my mother. Now my dad's passed away. I was going into my freshman year. So my mom, she said, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I really want to try to play and get on the team." So I signed up, biggest kid. They put you on the line. You don't have to learn. Learn and I was in heaven. It was like a sport made for me. and my personality came out. I learned about
You're an offensive line or defensive line?
I was both. I
Okay.
played both sides. I played the entire game. I was the biggest kid. It wasn't talent, it was size. And then slowly I became really good at a sport, and I started feeling more confident. It's really what kept me in high school. I thought I had all kinds of issues. You know, I grew up slightly dyslexic, so it was hard for me to do spelling and writing. It was hard for me to communicate because my writing skills were so bad. And you get made fun of. You're overweight. You're on the bus in the parking lot getting taught how to read, and so I had very low self-esteem going into high school, and that really was my upbringing. And when I look back, I'm not even embarrassed by it. It's like I'm so excited to have such a start because I think it's really what it kind of frames who I am as a human being today. So that's how I went into high school. It was really sports.
And then where did you go to college at?
Yeah, so
did you go to college? Did you finish college?
I got all of the above. So in my junior year, I started getting recruited for football, which is not a very big thing on Long Island. But I was able to make it to all county, and I was also on the all-star team as a freshman, as a sophomore, junior, and senior. And in my senior year, I was at Hofstra University playing for the Catholic All-Star, where they play the city versus the Long Island. And I went down for a punt return. And when I went to go make the tackle, I wound up with two knees, one meniscus and one ACL in my senior year. And I had already made a commitment going down to Georgetown University, not because of grades, but they wanted to build a program, which they eventually dropped football in 1986, which was my year that I was graduating. Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't it wasn't more than fate. If that had happened, I would have gone to a 4-year degree school. I would have either failed or succeeded. Who knows where I would be today? But that turned into 2 surgeries and a local community college called Nassau Community College, which I spelt incorrectly for many years until my business partner pointed it out. It looked like Nassau on my LinkedIn account because I can't spell very well. So I embraced that as a sucky thing that I'm not good at. And long story short is I went to Nassau Community, got my associate's degree, but it allowed me to start to work on my Series 7. And I worked for Shearson Lehman, which was the old, back in the day, it became Smith Barney. It was owned by Federal Express at the time. And I learned how to be a broker, a retail broker. So I used to cold call people and get them on the phone and try to make them buy stocks from the broker I was working for. Mm-hmm. All of that, again, all turns into who you are as a person, but all of that would not have happened if I had gone through with playing football and going to a 4-year degree school. Right. And so for my associate's degree, I wound up going to a place called Nassau Tech, which is, New York Tech University, which at the time wasn't a 4-year degree. Now it is. And I started to study political science because I had interest in becoming a lobbyist of all things because I love sales and I liked the things that I liked, and I wanted to push my agenda, and I thought that would have been an interesting path for me. Mm-hmm. So that was my high school, college years.
And so you became a retail broker, and you were selling stocks. And
while I was in college.
While you were in college. So what about after college?
So that didn't last very long because I hated it. I wound up painting houses. Okay. In high school, as a part-time job with another high school guy. So I wound up keeping that. So it's called E&J Painting. I still keep the corporation open, even though I have to file every year because it's just nostalgia for me. And while I was trying to figure things out, I was still painting houses, selling stock, which I really wasn't selling because I was only working for a broker. So I was getting paid hourly, but I hated it. It was the worst. And at the time, I was dating my first wife, Diana, who she and I were together since we're 13 years old, still best friends to this day. We have 3 children together. Her father was in the fabric business, selling fabric to furniture companies called Molden Mills. They made the Polar Fleece that we know today. Yeah, he was a very successful VP of sales for many years. And I was telling him, I really hated selling. Stock wasn't going to be for me. He says, you're a great sales guy. I know a lot of salespeople in the furniture business that really are not business-minded people. You seem to have a business mind. It would give you a great opportunity to learn a trade. And would you be interested? So I said, yeah, I'm always interested. So I was cleaning out his gutters, my girlfriend's house, soon-to-be wife, at the age of like 15, 16, because I knew them then. And while I was in college, because of this connection, they got me a interview with a company called Shaw Manufacturing, not the rug company, but it used to be an upholstery company in Tupelo, Mississippi. It was my first time ever on an airplane by myself without my parents. It's embarrassing, but it's the truth. And I flew to Tupelo, Mississippi for an interview. The interview went pretty smoothly. They had no business in New York. They've never shipped in New York. Back in the day, there was no cell phones, no GPS. You worked off of a Yellow Pages. And my sales pitch to him was, Mr. Doty was the owner. I said, look, Mr. Doty, you got no business up in New York. What's the harm? It's you told me you're gonna pay me a commission, and what's the harm? He said, what do you mean? I said, just give me the pictures and the swatches and let me go see what I can do. And the guy's like, okay. So he gave me pictures and swatches, and I flew back. I told my future father-in-law, I said, hey, they gave me the job. Now what? He's like, well, let's go to Levitt's Furniture. I'll never forget it. We went to Levitt's. He said, this is a sofa. This is traditional. This is a floral. This is a center match. And being in the furniture business, it's a lot to learn. And that's how I got started in furniture while I was still finishing off college. And that's how I just started working.
You just went to the store and your father-in-law or ex-father-in-law told you this is what this is, this is what this is, this is what this is. And basically that's how you learned it while you were going for it. And you had all these swatches, you didn't know what to do with it.
Nothing.
Tell me, walk us through your first sales call. What did you do?
How do you know I can remember my first sales call?
I'm sure you do. If you are keeping a corporation because it's nostalgia to you, I'm sure you remember your first sales call.
I'll never forget. Well, I went and I didn't know any better. And I looked at something called Siemens Furniture, now known as Rooms to Go. Jeff and his dad, Morty Seaman, who taught his business, really taught me the business in the beginning. And I noticed they had all these locations. They had maybe 30 at the time, all over Queens and Brooklyn. So I'm like, oh, they would be the right person to call because clearly they got more stores. Let me go start there. But you don't realize how hard it is to sell a big retailer who's never heard of you or the upholstery line, right? So I kept calling Mr. Rosenberg. Mr. Rosenberg, he was the buyer at the time, Alan Rosenberg, who unfortunately passed away many years ago, but somebody that really took a shot on me. And he never was nasty to me. He just said, not now, just keep trying. And I used to chase him all the time to try to get him to buy from me. So in the meantime, my father-in-law said, look, while you're chasing these big guys, you got to go out and make presentations to get good at it. So I'll never forget going to Mundial Furniture. I believe he had this, it was like a Cuban accent. Mm-hmm. And he was the most ornery, nasty guy. Like he scared the crap out of me. I was waiting my turn to go and see him. And he was just getting nasty and almost like very loud and boisterous. But I mustered up enough courage to go and wait my turn, and I got in line, and it was my first sale. He gave me an order. But he gave me an order, and I took the order, even though I kind of knew that it wasn't exactly what I could do, because the price list was a certain way, but I let him pick his fabric, and I gave him the price. And then I went back home to try to place the order, and the factory said, you can't sell that. So you got to do it this way. And I'm like, I got to go back and see this guy. I never went back because I was so afraid of the guy. And years later, when his son took over the business, I had the opportunity to tell his son, Monday, they used to call him, I told his son the story that his dad was my first sale that I never actually shipped. But I learned so much from follow-up and the fact that you got to be able, even when you make a mistake, you got to suck it up and you got to go back. So that was a huge lesson for me as a go-forward plan.
So Mundial Furniture?
Mundial Furniture.
Okay. And a Cuban guy, huh?
Cuban
guy.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So you go, so now you're selling these sofas or whatever. What happens next for you, for Eugene Alletto?
Oh, God. So I finally cracked some big customers. And at this point, it's different lines and, brands and lines that are not even in business today. And then my father-in-law, who was working with Molden Mills went out of business. They
Mhm.
finally filed Chapter 11 and went out of business. And so at this point, Teddy, my stepfather, said, I got to go get a job. I'm going to go look around. I said, well, you got me running around. Let's try something. So he and I joined forces. We got a couple of other furniture lines.
You're talking about your father-in-law,
My father-in-law,
Teddy.
and we took his. He knew a bunch of
People.
because they, at the time, the fabric guys would go calling the big guy, big furniture companies to kind of pre-sell the fabric so that they could get placements with the manufacturers. So we used his network and my brawn, and I was driving, behind windshields for 8 hours up to Buffalo, New York, and Boston, and I traveled everywhere, the whole Northeast. And I'd go out and sell, and he'd keep the major retailers, and I sold all the independents. And then business got really, really bad in, I want to say like in the early 2000s, we had that big, really decline in business. And our business was terrible. We were commission. And he's like, I just can't survive off of this. And I'm like, you got to hold on. And so he left and says, you're going to be okay. He says, you got this. And he went back to the furniture business. It was called Joan Fabrics at the time. And went back to fabrics, and I stayed with furniture. The company's called Furniture Marketing Associates. And the big pinnacle moment for me was, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I was on my own for the first time. I've always had, like, my mom, even though I've done things on my own, you have people in your life that are there. My grandfather, my mom, now Teddy. And now I'm sitting by myself with all these swatches and all this product. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I just remember a moment. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday. I've been doing it at this point, for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then after about 2 or 3 weeks, another woman came into my life who is still with me to this day. 32 years later, she's been with me, Linda Baker. I call her Touchdown Maker because I would always sell and repent. I always overpromise on everything I do, but then I always overdeliver. So if I say something, I will it to happen. If a good salesperson, if you do something and never, ever follow through, back to the old Monday furniture, your reputation sucks. So I knew that I needed someone who could run point with the factories and the deliveries. So I hired Linda Baker. She came in. I had to set up an office. I just stayed on the road because that's what I was good at. And I would sell, bring her the orders. She'd processed all the orders. And I started to learn design of furniture, advertising, and marketing. I became this little business on my own, which I was shocked at, but you start realizing you're doing everything like if you had your own business. I was essentially a middleman, so I got a chance to see everything from manufacturing to retailing to advertising, and I got really, really good at understanding the market and how to really analyze the consumer's behavior and so forth. So that was my big move was hiring Linda Baker, who, like I said, she's still with me on this crazy journey that I'm on.
Wow. So Linda has been with you for
32 years, I want to say, 31 years.
Wow. So when did you first start a furniture business?
So I would say it would be 94, 95, 1995, around there.
Wow.
So a long time I was in the furniture business. And, I think my professional career has taken tons of turns. My kids look back now and they just see how we're living our lives. We have a relatively good lifestyle, but they don't have any real context. They know that I lost my dad. They know, my humble beginnings, but it doesn't have the same motivation or the same life lessons. You can't give somebody those things.
Yeah. So Eugene, let me ask you. So you're now selling furniture. Back in 2000, 2001, when Teddy left, you got Linda Baker over there, and then you're selling furniture this time. When did you start, or when did you decide to open BEDGEAR?
Another crazy story. So it wasn't that first moment. So it's, again, everything is about your journey. So all of these micro moments that I'm describing to you are what really you start to recognize where you have talent, and where you spend your time is where you have talent.
Mm-hmm.
When I played football, it was because I was a big dude. I was really good at being a pulling guard or a defensive guard. And when you become good at something, you want to become better at it. You become obsessed, right? So selling for me was easy. Now what I realized is that I had the relationships, not because I was the best schmoozer or the coolest guy, because I had those salespeople that always I was competing for the buyer's time because the buyers always wanted to hang out with the fun people. I really wasn't the fun guy. I was the guy with the ideas. I'm always saying, what about this? What about that? And I'm always back and forth wanting to do more of the sharing of ideas. And so one of the things I learned when I was selling furniture is that a lot of the money was made off of selling furniture protection, selling these protection plans. So at the time I was working for a company called Master Design, which was a big case good company. And the president that came in, his name was Kevin O'Connor. He and I started a company together called Metro Guardian. And to this day, there's a company called Guardian. I became a distributor with Kevin. We opened up and we had the whole Northeast. And I was selling furniture protection to the people that I already had the furniture connections with. And we built this really cool business. And then Master Design, there's another crazy story, but Master Design, the Taiwanese owner embezzled money in Taiwan and essentially got shut down in America. And it was a terrible story because a lot of people the Taiwanese put their heart and soul into the company and they lost tons of money. And then us here, we lost the company. But one of the amazing things that came out of that is Kevin O'Connor was actually in China when this guy blew himself up basically and got arrested and called me up and says, look, I don't know what the hell we're going to do, but I'm working on something. And what he was working on was to Master Design's number one resource was a company called Lacquercraft. If you know today, Lacquercraft owns Craftmaster, Universal. All that was bought after our success of a company called Legacy Classic Furniture. Mm-hmm. So we actually started Legacy Classic Furniture. I was the sales guy. Kevin was the president and CEO. And then we had Jerry Sagardol, who was a sales manager, and this guy Richard Mahullik, who was the operator. But by being part of that dynamic force of people, I learned and understood operations. I learned all these other parts of the business of importing. So I was going to China and designing furniture and picking out colors of stain for furniture with Kevin for years with furniture designers. So I started understanding the import business, understanding how to manufacture product, how to bring product to market, understand margin. I didn't know this today. I know this today, but as I said to you, by not being into perspective, it's amazing when I look back. I had all this knowledge that I didn't even realize, but I got it based off of just operating. Mm-hmm. So that was a big pivot. And Kevin, at that point, his wife had gotten sick and said, look, I can't do Legacy and Metro Guardian. I got to focus on Madeline. She had some, thank God she survived, but she had a brain tumor that they had to deal with. I took over the business full time, and I built that business into what today is called BEDGEAR. So what I learned from this experience was like, wait a minute, if furniture people make money from selling furniture protection, and the bedding people were literally just selling this piece of garbage that they would put over the bed, which was like a plastic cover, and they would give you a warranty. And so what I started to put together was sales process was broken in the mattress business. People were just buying mattresses on their back. They were buying pillows in Bed Bath and Macy's standing up. So I said, it's kind of barbaric when you think about it. What makes more sense is to buy a mattress and a pillow at the same time because you're testing out a bed. Why wouldn't you test out a pillow? It makes no sense. So Sleepy's was in our backyard. I had sold them furniture, headboards and so forth, and always spent time on the retail floor on the weekends. So I gave them the idea. I said, look, if I sell this really amazing product with this warranty, I think the customers would really enjoy it. I think the salespeople could make good money, and I think we could all do well. And what got us to make the product is my son had allergies, of all things, my middle boy. And Alec was suffering from allergies for a long, long time. And when we went to the allergist, he said he's got dust mites and not bed bugs, but dust mites, which are in the bed. And that's where he's getting most of his allergies at night. They do these tests on him. So they sent us to a surgical supply store at the time to go get him a cover for our mattress. And it was the same crap that mattress companies sell in mattress stores. And so I solved his problem. It worked immediately. He stopped sneezing and not waking up, but he woke up in a pool of sweat. So we started realizing that this is crazy. Like, wait a minute, I solved one problem, but he's got another problem. So we started to develop product that was moisture wicking, heat away from the body, but still protect the mattress and the sleeper. And that, again, it's years in the making, but all of these things coming together is what really gave me an understanding on how to scale the business. And the single most important piece are the people that you come across. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a lesson. Maybe those lessons are not just positive. Some of them are negative. Listen to everybody and then filter the good things and the bad things. Mm-hmm. And you can avoid bad things in your life by listening to how others had bad things happen in their lives. So having all those experiences and all those people in my life is really what has empowered me to be in the position I'm in today. And the other great life lesson, you're only as good as your next hire. Every person I've hired throughout my career has propelled me to be the person I am today. The amount of information and lessons that you can learn from your team members, your employees, your customers, it's amazing. And if you pay more attention to the people in your life and be more present, anybody can figure out how to have a great life journey. And that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons I take away.
Wow. So today, BEDGEAR sells what is the array of product that they sell?
So we started with the mattress protector. Mm-hmm. We then brought the pillows in, which are built based off of back, stomach, side, small, medium, large body type. The company is almost 60% female. And one of the things that we learned with the employees that we have was bra fitting is very similar to pillow fitting. So where you have bra like women's bras, right? So a woman spent a lot of time really getting fit for a bra back in the day. I mean, they would go in and they'd get fit. Today, the great thing about the internet and the great thing about manufacturing is it's a lot easier for a female to find the perfect fit. And what we realized is that people were buying one size fits all pillow, one size fits all mattress, one size fits all, you name it. But if you look at how a woman gets fit for a bra, it's based off of a cup size and a back size. Mm-hmm. Well, if you think about a sleeper, it's their sleeping position and your back size as well, because you got to know small, medium, or large. So if you have two people that are sleeping on their side and one's petite and one's large, how could you have the same pillow? And no matter how much of this memory foam that's out there, you can't pour a big enough piece of memory foam or a thin enough piece of memory foam for one type of memory foam to fit all of us. So everything that we've done is we've built products with the idea of making sure that we fit every guest every time. And that came from our team members saying this is no different than bra fitting. So we took and built all of our products based off of that type of an algorithm. Then we had millions of consumers we sold pillows to that said, oh my God, you got to be in the mattress business. I'm like, no, we don't want to be in the mattress business. It's like doggy dog, the mattress mafia, they'll squash you like a bug. And then all of a sudden, all these bed-in-a-box companies are just crushing the big, old school people like Tempur and Simmons and Serta. All of those things are like being blown up because customers no longer see those as the brands, and they're seeing all these cooler kind of brands that are out there. But when they get it home, they're not always really that happy with it, which is why they have a high return rate when people go buy on the internet, because people are realizing that one feel, one size doesn't suit everybody.
Doesn't fit all.
Just doesn't. So now we're seeing customers come back to stores, and what we notice is like, wait a minute, if I am a side sleeper and I'm a large person, and my sleeping partner is tiny and a back sleeper, why would I wouldn't wear the same shirt, I wouldn't wear the same pants, but I got to sleep on the same pillow in the mattress? That makes no sense. So BEDGEAR took the same pillow fitting, and we designed a mattress that's built into a modular construction that allows you to choose your side using the same principles of a back, stomach, side, or small, medium, large. And we don't do it in a custom way. It's 100% built to inventory, and all you have to do is assemble the parts on delivery. And that's how we got into the mattress business.
So that's how you got in the mattress business. And you call that mattress today M3.
It's the M3.
Right, correct. And so what was the success of M3? And when people saw it, I mean, what did they think about it? I'm like, how can you do that with a spring? You've only done that in air mattress. So what did you think of that?
Yeah.
Did you thought that was the craziest idea? I mean, what did you think? I mean, what was your feelings?
Well, it's taken us.
Were you scared of failing? And
I'm still scared of failing because it hasn't done well in every retailer that we've put it in. Retailers that embrace the concept of fitting the customer and giving them a unique experience compared to just taking them to the highest commission product or taking them to a product that is just what they know and not putting the consumer first. Those are the sales. Those are the sales that we lose. The ones that we gain are the retailers that recognize that this is an opportunity to give the consumer a unique experience and give them something that's personalized, because comfort comes from things that fit you. Comfort doesn't come from an average person. Nobody's average today. Today we want to be inclusive and we want to empower people. So when we built this particular bed, it took 5 years, and the idea came from Porsche. We met with the Porsche consultant group, and they sent us to Stuttgart, Germany, my partner Shana and I. And when we spent the 3 days in the factory and we watched the way they built the 911, we said, this is how we have to build a bed. Because you go into a 911, you go into a Porsche store, you think you're customizing everything. The reality is it's a kit of parts. And when you order it at the Porsche dealer a car, you think you're saying, I want this, I want that, I want this. You can put whatever you want in the car. But all that order goes out the next day to the factory, and all they do is place orders for all those parts, and then they become an assembler of parts. And the engineering is what they're most famous for. So that's how we took the approach to building the mattress and the pillow. It's a kit of parts.
Gotcha. Now, Eugene, when you were selling, you said that people are buying mattresses laying on their backs, and people are buying pillows standing on their feet at Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, wherever they're at, right? And you decided, well, I want to bring this different concept. You went to talk to Sleepy's, decided that you were going to do this. Did you think it was going to work? I mean, were you confident enough about it?
100%.
And what gave you that confidence?
If you remember, I always overpromise and overdeliver. So going back to my furniture days, I would force the manufacturers to build things to what I felt would sell for that retailer. So when you sell a Siemens and they're used to building packages, like Rooms to Go still does the package, the manufacturer I was selling to them would always overcharge them for the chair, because the chair is where an upholstery manufacturer makes back their margin. So they sell the sofa at like $0, and they make their money on the love seat, the ottoman, the chair. I'm going back 20 years ago. So for me, it was super important to realize that, hey, if you want to sell Siemens furniture, you gotta hit a package price. Stop telling me how much the sofa is. So I willed that to happen. I would work with the manufacturer. So in the meantime, why I knew it would be successful is because it was already being successful. I just had to fit into their success. So when I look at the customer at a Bed Bath or a Walmart or a Target standing in an aisle with no help, trying to figure out like what pillow is for me. Like, what? This is crazy. But meanwhile, you could go get fit for a golf club, get fit for a golf club, get fit for a tennis racket, get fit for your suit, get fit for a bra, get fit for a sneaker. You get fit for everything. You get in your car. You put your seat back to the exact 18 ways, air pump with the bladder on the back, your legs get extended. Everywhere around us, we get fit for comfort, except for our sleeping environment. So I knew it was going to be successful.
People underestimate their sleep still. I remember looking at the first time I was walking in Vegas Market, and this lady was giving this shirt, sleep naked. And I'm like, oh, basically caught my attention, because I'm like, sleep naked. It was a cool shirt, right? So it made me stop. I'm like, who's going to buy a $199 pillow?
Or
right?
a $250 protector.
Right. And I remember, I'm like, who will ever buy that? And I mean, today I know BEDGEAR sells thousands of them, hundreds of thousands
We're in
of them.
26 countries already.
Right. Did you ever thought about it? Who will buy a $199, $250 protector, or $299 protector?
Never. You know something, Sammy? You underestimate consumption. When people want something, they find a way to get it.
Well, I mean, I know that. People are buying $1,200 phones.
They used to be 6. They used to be 3. They used to be. It's the same thing.
And they stand in line, to buy them.
Exactly.
People are buying $1,000 shoes. I mean,
But tell me, that phone, is it really just a phone?
no,
It's not a
it's
phone
a
anymore.
lifeline.
Right? It's everything.
It's a lifeline.
It's how you get home. It's how you get an Uber. It's how you pay your bills. It's how you surf the internet. It's how you watch TV.
Yeah.
So the reason they pay $1,200, and frankly, it's a lot more because you got to pay the service, right? So that $1,200 phone is probably costing you somewhere about $3,600 to $3,500 a year.
But besides the phone, we know phone is more important. Want me to tell you what blows my mind? People don't want to spend money on their sleep and their pillows, or something that recharges them for the next day, but they will spend money on other stuff. Like, I went to the mall for Christmas, and because of COVID and everything, stores you can't enter, and I saw this long line, and it was right next to each other, and there's like about 100 people in one line, and then about another 200 people on the other line, and I look, and the line is outside Gucci and Louis Vuitton, and I'm like, $5,000 purses, $2,000 purses, and I'm like, it was like a moment that I was thinking, I'm like, people spend money on purses and shoes and stuff like that, but refuse to spend good amount of money, and or refuse to spend good amount of time to learn what is a good sleep can do for them, and like you said, they don't want to get fitted and they don't want to do this, and so how will we change that perspective? People's perspective about sleeping versus what they can buy, materialistic things.
The good news is we don't have to anymore. The 25 to 35-year-olds value their sleep. They value things differently than you and I do. And we always would say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. We always said, sleep? No, only lazy people sleep, right?
Uh-huh.
So sleep for the average Joe, the average person like you and I, you always cheated sleep. You thought cheating sleep meant you could have more time to achieve more. The reality is what the younger generation realizes, that cheating sleep takes you further away from your dreams and ambition, because the sleep in your life is what allows you to be more awake and accomplish more in your life. So the good news is our kids, your kids, my kids, I have a 25, a 22, and an 18-year-old. Every one of those kids, they're not embarrassed that they sleep. They talk about it like it's a badge of honor. So that's the good news. The sad news is that our age group that is lined up to go buy Gucci and Louis Vuitton, those are a lot of times people need to buy something to make themselves feel happy. When I get this, then I'll be happy. It's a problem in consumption. It's a problem here in America, and we're always looking to something else to be happy, as opposed to just being happy. And so the best way to be happy is to get a great night's sleep. And when people can't sleep and they're miserable, they'll go out and they'll spend anything to get a good night's sleep. So I think between the younger generation helping us old people really open our eyes to the value of not just sleep, but the value of the world in which we live, and how we need to protect who we are and what we are as a society, as a group of people. And I also think the fact that more people, because of anxiety and because of the phones and the screens and everything that we're watching, they're starting to have a hard time getting a good night's sleep. And they're starting to look, and the best place to look is the internet. And the best place to look is the internet, because there you can provide the customer with amazing information, as opposed to what's happened with some of our retail partners who have turned their back against great in-store experience and getting the sales team to be really focused on the sleep, not on just the mattress or the pillow independently. And retailers, frankly, one of the things that blows me away with exclusive furniture, to be perfectly honest with you, is that you recognize the value of being a great sales professional. You don't just put product on your floor. I watch you and your brother and your family. Everything you do is so painstakingly making sure that the guest is in the forefront of your mind. Not just getting an order, but making sure that it's the right product and checking on the product, even when it goes out for delivery, making sure that the guest does not leave your store unless they have a full sleep system. That's what it takes. There's no reason that you can't have a line out your door. The problem is that there's not enough of retailers recognizing the value of sleep and how to present it. It's not the customer doesn't see the value. We all know if you have a shitty night's sleep, you have a shitty day. It's just that simple.
Next day, it's simple. So today, BEDGEAR, you started this BEDGEAR company. You're an innovator. Took that risk, bringing a product that nobody had seen at this time, right? And I mean, I can say I'm happy to say, and I'm proud to say that today you sell probably more pillows in that price range than anybody does, right? Uh, or sheets and bed sheets and mattresses and stuff. How many people working for BEDGEAR today?
So we're well over a few hundred people at this point here in America, and then we have partnerships in other countries as well.
So let's just say these couple of hundred people that work for you. You were growing up, or when I say growing up to BEDGEAR, you only was 1, 2, 3 people manned, right? How did you learn to manage so many people now?
Because I don't. What I've learned is if you try to manage people, you wind up not only crazy, but you make people crazy. We have a very different culture at BEDGEAR. What I say is the only reason you get hired is because you have an opinion. If you don't have an opinion, I don't need you. So we try to find people that are very opinionated, and then we make sure that they recognize, and we make sure the other employees, the other team members all understand that everybody has to share their opinion. Mm-hmm. So why that's important is because when you see something, we need you to say something. If you see a better product or a better way to manufacture the product or a better way to deliver the product or a better sales presentation and you're not sharing that, why do I need you? Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not going to be able to grow. I'm not going to be able to be better if you're not going to share with me how I can improve. When did I become the know-it-all? I only know what I know from the experiences I just gave you. Mm-hmm. And you probably had different experiences than me. You grew up in Pakistan when you were a kid. You got here when you were 15. Mm-hmm. You don't think that you see things differently than I do?
Absolutely.
Right? So wouldn't I want to understand and learn from you? And that's the culture that we have. And I've learned that if you provide people with that, some people check and say, I'm out of here. I need to be told what to do. I need to know where the bathroom is. Someone has to teach me the program. Someone has to do this. I didn't get the right computer. The computer you gave me doesn't have enough RAM, so I didn't get my work done. You hear it all. But the one thing that you'll hear from me is that we're not going to tell you what to do. You need to tell us what to do. We're going to tell you the parameters. We're going to tell you the vision of the company. We're going to provide you with what we believe our opportunities are. But if you're not coming here with a strong opinion, then why do I need you?
No, why do we need you?
That's just
what
we've been doing.
So you want leaders, not followers. That's basically what you're saying.
That's another whole story. So my kids and I, we debate leadership all the time. And I grew up not being what I would consider a leader. I don't think I was a follower. I was really lost. And I think when you're lost, if you stay lost long enough, you become a follower. If you recognize that you have some opinion or something to share, you become a leader. Mm-hmm. Leadership is not something that you can ask for. Leadership is not something that is given. If people aren't going to follow, and I get choked up because my son just wrote an essay for college, and you don't think your kids are listening, right? So as you know, you got older kids. So as my kids get older, you start realizing that all the shit that you tell them that goes in one ear and out the other, some of it sticks. And so he was writing this essay, and he was sharing in his essay about what I've said to my kids all the time is, one, always be a gentleman to my kids. I said it, and always be, a fantastic female to my daughter. And beyond that, I said, leaders are not born. Leaders are not people that wake up and tell people that they're leaders. You can't be a leader unless someone's willing to follow you. It's just that simple. So my grandfather, which is why I bring this up and why I get emotional, he was so important in my life. And what he taught me as a young man was, you fight for your beliefs until you have literally, even if there's just one person standing with you. As soon as everybody's left you and they're across the street, look behind you. If you're alone, it's time to fold up your idea and go join the others. Mm-hmm. But you fight. If you have any fight in you, you fight and you try to convince one person. If you can convince one person, you can convince two. So leadership is having a sense of deep values and beliefs, consistent every day you wake up. And if that turns somebody on and they're willing to listen to you, you're now leading. There's no secret. And I think the sad part is what people don't realize is that you can have bad intentions and bad beliefs and bad values and still be a leader, right? Which we've seen in life and in religion and in government and in companies. How do those people become leaders? Is because they convince people that their beliefs and people follow them.
Mm-hmm.
So the last piece of leadership I always say is I think of it as superheroes, which I love. I love Spider-Man, Superman. I just love watching it. James Bond is my favorite. There's always a dark side to Batman because what makes you great is also what makes you terrible. So good leadership is the balance between good and evil, right? And I know it's hard to believe, but if you start believing in your own shit and you don't invite people to provide you with their opinions, you can go dark pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure that you have people in your life that not only believe you, but share their opinion and call you out when you're full of shit. And that to me is how you guide yourself to have a great journey.
To greatness. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. I mean, and all of us. So thank you. Now, what is next for BEDGEAR and for Eugene Alletto?
So
I'm sure you get asked that question.
I get asked, and frankly, every day I do have a true north, and my true north is different than what I want to accomplish. I just want to get up and I want to be happy. And why I say that is because if you don't choose happiness, mm-hmm. you wind up again where your biggest strengths become your biggest weakness. Because I have like this insatiable appetite, I want everything. I want to learn everything. I want to eat everything. I want to drink everything. I want everything. That's my personality. But that also gives you this level of anxiety because if you're not getting something every day, it's restlessness. And that can also become a huge distraction in your brain. So you mentioned that you meditate 3 times a day to just calm your brain. I relate to that because literally I'm constantly on the go. But that's what gives me happiness. So I wrestle with that to make sure that doesn't get in the way of a good life. The things I want to accomplish is I want to be a voice of good community. I grew up in an incredible community that we stayed and worked together. And to me, I want to foster good community because it starts at home. And what we see divide in this country, we see divide in the world. That is never going to be solved by politics. It's never been solved by politics. How that gets solved is it starts at home. How you operate at home, how you operate in your community, and that's where it spreads from. So I'm involved in a couple of community projects where I'm helping define and develop some local towns that I've been living in. So I'm doing that. And then for BEDGEAR, what my main goal right now is that we have a huge opportunity in a dirty business. Our business is disgusting. We send back and throw shit in landfills. It's staggering. All these mattresses and pillows that are sold online, they take back and they throw it in a landfill. There's not enough homeless shelters. There's not enough places to send all this foam. So think about this for a minute, Sammy. We're sucking oil out of the ground, this precious oil that we're hoping that will last for as long as we can find an alternative, right? And we're turning it into foam. Foam is an insulator. It actually makes you warm in bed. And then we put it into someone's home, so they overheat a lot of times on memory foam. And if they don't like it because it's too soft, it's too firm, it's not right, they just pick up the phone and say, take it back. Well, where do you think that goes? So we take this natural resource out of the ground, we turn it into foam, we put it in a box, we use fossil fuel to drive it to your house on a UPS truck. You don't like it after 100 days. We then say, okay, send us the label and we'll pick it up or we'll throw it out. And now it gets crushed and thrown into a landfill because you can't take foam and convert it back to oil. Mm-hmm. So not only are we wasting precious oil coming out of the ground, but then we're throwing the shit in the ground and making landfill. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even make sense. So what we looked at when we built all of our products is because we built it into modular pieces, if you're not happy with our mattress, we can replace the part, not the whole mattress. It's like when your car tires go bad. You don't return the car, you replace the tires. All of these mattresses on the market, They glue them together. They put a cover on them. You can't replace a part. It's impossible. So after 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, it goes in the whole thing goes in the ground. So we are 100% focused on social compliance. We want to make sure that our CSR and everything that we focus on today, going forward, is how do we reduce the amount of natural resources that goes into our industry, and more importantly, how many of those natural resources do we throw into a dirty pile somewhere in the middle of the woods? It's disgusting. If Patagonia could do it and help the clothing industry to give 1% of money back to help with this carbon footprint, and they thought that guy was crazy. I remember 25 years ago they thought the head of Patagonia was a psycho.
Mhm.
Now he's somebody we all like. Oh my
Aspire
God,
to
he's
be.
like amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy that takes a dirty industry and turn it on its head, so we become more innovative with our products and the raw materials that go into our products, so that we don't waste anything. It's stupid. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so that's why
my big
that's why
push.
y'all developed the M3. So if someone say I don't like the firm, you just give them a new mechanism, or basically
Exactly.
uh,
New
the
suspension.
chassis, new suspension. So I mean that's what you call a suspension, because you went to Porsche to go learn this. So you
Exactly.
named it suspension, and
Exactly.
which is cool, which is a cool idea. And I mean we have to save the environment. We have we have a duty to save the environment.
Well,
That's
even if we don't save it, why don't we just not abuse it?
abuse it.
Even if you think that there's no global warming, I always say, to she and I have these philosophical conversations. I refuse to debate scientists that say there's no global warming and scientists that say that there is. And you could say you're living and you can see it. But I don't know what happened 3 billion years ago. I don't know what happened, ice ages and volcanic, and dinosaurs disappeared for a reason. And I have no idea. So here's what I decide. I'm not a scientist. If I could use less and still live a great life and not put all that crap in the ground, why would you not
Why would
choose
you
to
not
do
do
that?
it? That's it.
So let's not even debate global warming.
That's absolutely correct. Now pillows, mattresses, mattress protectors,
Sheets.
sheets, and now mattresses too, like different mattresses that can be broken down into parts. That's what you're called. That's what you are mostly focused on. We understand your philosophy about leadership and everything. I want to ask you, besides moving away from business as a personal thing, you said happy and happiness a couple of times, right? What does true happiness really mean to you, and why is it important?
So my definition of happiness is I shared as getting up every morning and being happy. Happiness to me is not being satisfied. So it's a bit of a double entendre. I think people that look to be, I can't speak for people, I can speak for myself, right? So I think what I've learned is that when you look to be satisfied, it's like it's done. It's like finishing a good meal, right? I'm satisfied. So to me, if you're constantly in this spiral of looking for satisfaction so that you can be happy, buying that purse, getting that new car, and I laugh because I have a 12-year-old Yukon that's falling apart and a 10-year-old Outback Subaru, and I have to get a new car. And I'm driving people crazy because I've been shopping for months now. Why? And I only buy used, by the way. I won't buy a new car because I like to save money. But what I realize is I don't like to just save money because I'm going to buy a nice car, so maybe I'm saving 10 grand, over 5 years. But the journey and the ability to go and know that I got a good deal, and in the satisfaction I realize on this new car for me, and I put this in because there's context around this. It's not getting the car and having that moment behind the wheel that gives me the satisfaction. What gives me the satisfaction is earning the car. And not, when I mean earn, not just the money that I earned to buy the car, but earning the car. So everything to me has to have some sort of an experience or a journey associated with it, even if it's spending money. So happiness to me is not being satisfied where you just go to a dealer, pay the money, and be done. That's I'm satisfied. I need a car. I bought a car. My satisfaction, my happiness doesn't come from from the purchase of a vehicle. My satisfaction comes from the journey and the experience behind shopping for it and paying for it. So I can't express what other people's happinesses are, but I find that is more obtainable, because that journey, a lot of times I find people look at that as the struggle to be satisfied, the struggle to be happy, how to pay for something, how do I get that? And they focus on getting it, and then after a few months, the newness is off of it. So what, am I supposed to be happy the next time? Like it's an ending spiral, right? So when you took me around the warehouse today and showed me your warehouse and introduced me to the personnel and the family that's in the building, yeah, you make a good living. But if you now look back after all these years of hard work, what was more satisfying to you? Taking me around the building and showing me the people and your amazing, the drivers that deliver happiness on those deliveries, and the ability for them to feed their families and do well by delivering furniture to people's homes. Is that not satisfying to you?
Yeah.
Right? But is the satisfaction come from getting something, or did that happiness is seeing other people happy and being grateful that you are able to provide people with that level of happiness? And that's where I define my happiness.
That is so great. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm coming towards the end of the interview, and I asked everybody this question. But before I ask you this question, I think I want to ask you one more question. And I believe, I'm a true believer of happiness. I truly believe, I tell this to my employees, tell this to people who I come in touch with. You got to be happy in whatever you do, right? Because if you're not happy working at Exclusive Furniture or BEDGEAR or any job you're at, then you're just not going to be happy. If you're not happy living at the place where you live at, whatever it is, you might pay $10,000 rent over there. If you're not happy, it's worthless, right? It's even shittier than living at a $1,000 place. So happiness means everything. But at the same time, I always tell everybody, humility is very important, because we all, and I don't want to mix religion with it, but they say you came from dirt and you're gonna go into dirt, right?
Yep.
Nothing else will matter is what you're gonna leave out here. So what do you think about humility? What is your meaning, and do you think it's important? Do you think, why is it important?
So when BEDGEAR was growing, we struggled for about 2.5 years finding people that really were happy at BEDGEAR. So this rings well for me. And we were small enough where I could interview. Nobody knew I was doing it, but I interviewed everybody. Not in a formal way, but I made my rounds, if you will, here, both at the New York corporate office as well as Rock Hill, which is where our factory and warehouse is today for the East Coast. And my search was to find people and why they were still with me, from 30 years to 20 years to 10 years, because most of the people in my life have been with me my entire journey. And I was trying to find a way to figure out, why are so many people happy and show up every day and follow this crazy person into battle, and then why in the last whatever years it was, were people unhappy and either being let go or leaving on their own. And I've discovered the most amazing thing in this journey of interviewing people. It wasn't the people that were there. It was the contrast of the people that weren't there. So we defined our commitment to what everybody calls culture. You're not a cultural fit. It's a cop-out. It's complete bullshit. Because nobody can really define a culture. They put a mission statement, a vision statement. Everybody does the same crap. We have 4 words. We now have 5, because I have this amazing HR director, and she always has to have the last word, so she added a word to it. The 4 words that we started with: humble, hungry, curious, and clever. And the reason that we landed on those 4 words is because everybody that's in our company has a high dose of those 4 words. They're not all perfect, including myself, but each of us carry that as a badge of courage. The ones that are no longer with us would struggle in one of those 4 categories. The single biggest problem out of those 4 categories, the one that you can't struggle with the most, is humility. Humility is not going to church or feeding the poor in our company. Humility isn't being an amazing person to a certain group of people and then nasty to other people. It has nothing to do with any of that. Humility defined for BEDGEAR is your ability to embrace the suck. And what I mean by that is we don't know everything. It goes back to opinions. If you come in and no problem, and then you go and scramble to get something done because you're not willing to say it's a problem, that's a lack of humility. If you're going to smile, and meanwhile your smile means basically go F yourself, that's not a sense of humility. If you're going to walk around with a chip on your shoulder, or you think you know better and nobody's listening to, but you're not willing to communicate and give your opinion out in public, if you're not being willing to say, hey, that's not going to work, and you're not being willing to have like a family dinner kind of an argument, you're going to have a hard time in our company. People in our company are going to call you out on your shit. And you know what you do? You have an open dialogue about it, and it's corrective, it's helpful, because if you don't get corrective criticism,